create what you want. And waking up in the morning, I had the habit of just going to bed in a bad mood. Might have had a conflict with somebody and just not letting it go and holding on to that. And you wake up in the morning and you still have that thought in your mind. It's like, I hope I don't see so-and-so. Yeah. 'Cause I just want to kick the crap out of them, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of minds. Yeah.
And so letting go of that stuff, forgiveness to let go. Mm-hmm. And I liken life and your experiences to, say, a rose bush. Roses are very beautiful, right?
Correct.
And life can be very beautiful when you have those good connections and those friends and things like that. Mm-hmm. But on the stems, there are these thorns that if you make the wrong mistake, actually the mistake of grabbing the thorn, well, that hurts like hell.
Yeah.
And so in order to let it go, actually you let it go to stop the pain. And every time you remember that bad experience, it's like grabbing that rose stem again and grabbing a hold of that thorn. And so in order to overcome that, you just let it go and you don't go back there to that spot. And then you can progress further. And it's about the forgiveness. And the forgiveness is not so much for the individual or the incident, it's for yourself. Mm-hmm. And you can't get new ideas and you can't get new experiences if you're holding on to the same old crap.
Right.
And you look, I once mentioned it as mental constipation, right? Or you think of a sawmill. You have these logs floating down the river to the sawmill. Mm-hmm. And if one of those logs or a couple of those logs get sideways, well, then they just clog up the flow of the river, the logs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what the lack of forgiveness is you clogged up your mental muscles.
I never heard of it like that. That's a good analogy right there.
Yeah. And then when you straighten them out and you let things go, everything's going.
That's interesting because I know whenever I got out of the Marine Corps, I had that problem, right? Because we were never taught to forget. We were always taught to well, then this is a problem, you have to fix it. Well, in the civilian world, you really can't fix those problems because you probably get in trouble.
Right.
Whereas in the Marine Corps, you get hazed, you take them to the back of the tool shed and do push-ups, etc., whatever. And then to that mind is problem solved. And you come out here and it's more of well, you can't do that. So we lash out more in anger about how something is not getting done. Hence, I just said whenever people were getting, a lot of, like I said, myself, I had this problem, jumping from job to job because you're just not stable in that mindset to learn how to adapt to the civilian world right out of there.
Right.
I mean, they train you to do this, do that, pretty much dismember or kill, and then that's your problem solve. You come out to the civilian world just okay, you got to actually solve that problem. Mm-hmm. But the problem I had was getting put in leadership positions and then trying to solve it the way a Marine would solve the problem.
Oh, I understand.
Right. Versus, okay, well, how would a manager solve that problem? So I would, tell these guys hey, man, you're not doing this right, blah, blah. The F is the matter with you. You can't really say that,
Yeah, I can relate.
So, yeah, exactly. So it was real hard, man. I mean, even in little retail jobs, me being a former Marine, they would throw me in a leadership position and be oh, I know you'll do good. People listen to you. It's yeah, but then they see how we get trained in that leadership position to get stuff done, and all we can think about is mission accomplishment, and that's all that matters. I don't care if I hurt your feelings, I don't care if I degrade you, that blah blah blah, it's mission accomplishment.
Right.
And the only place that I knew that why I worked in the oil fields a lot was because that was the only place we could do things like that and not get in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Versus before that, I mean, I was in and out. It was 21 to 25, I believe, those 4 years, just in and out of jobs. It didn't matter what job it was. Corporate job, in and out. Retail job, it was, I was in and out. I did work at American Eagle for 2.5 years because my manager, because her husband is a former Marine.
Right.
So whenever, she was okay, look, you can do your thing. Just don't cuss at the employees. Don't call them pieces of shit. Don't, don't do all this stuff. She was but I'll give you the freedom to lead these people because I know you can do well. I was okay. And I actually stayed in that position for a long time, but then she switched stores, new manager came in, and dude, I was out. Like he was just like, "You're not doing that." I'm like, "This is how I did it for 2 years," and he just didn't like it, man. So he fired me.